Call our meeting to order. I'd like to recognize the members of Southside High School, the members of the Youth Advisory Council, and I think they're on the Baptist pew back there in the back. How about you guys standing up? We're all from Southside. Thank you all for being here. Well, good morning, everyone. We'll call the February 6, 2018 meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. And we will call on Councilman Charles Rum for invocation and pledge. If you would, please rise.
Dear gracious God, we come to you this morning giving thanks for your many blessings. Dear Lord, we just ask that you put your hand on us this morning as we make decisions that affect our city. And dear Lord, we just pray that those decisions are ones that are pleasing to you. We just ask that you be with those that support our ability to be here, our freedom that we have, and we just ask that you put your hand on them. Dear Lord, we just ask that you continue to bless us as we make our way through this day, and it's in your Son's name that I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 3 is roll call, and Anita, if you would just show Dr. Foote is absent. She called and asked me to thank everyone for their prayers of comfort during the loss of her husband, and we wish her the very best. Item 4 is approval of minutes of January 9th, 2018 City Council meeting. Council members received a copy of those minutes. If there are any additions or alterations, deletions, if not, we'll go ahead with no objection and approve those minutes of January the 9th. Item 5 is the invitation for public comment, and for any of you wishing to address the council on any item under new business, if you would, just let me know when we get to that particular item, and I'll be happy to call on you. And for the council's information, if there's no objection, I'd like to move item 4 up to item 3, if you would. I think this will facilitate everyone getting to the mic in a just manner. If there's no objection, we'll do that.
No objection.
We have one proclamation this morning, and you will note that it's to be announced, and I will now announce and ask Shirley Jones if she would come up to the front and join me. Anybody family here? You got your chamber folks talking about family. Anybody here? Okay, good. All right. Let's see. Okay. We have one of our favorite people in the whole world. She has endured hundreds and hundreds of council meetings. And as I encourage people, if they have a period of insomnia, a good way to go to sleep is watch these council meetings like at 2 o'clock in the morning on E+6. But she has also been attending all the county commission meetings. And I hope we do a little better, but if we don't, it's okay. You don't have to say anything. And also all the school board meetings for a number of years. And she has endured that. And she is approaching retirement, I think, at the end of this month. And we want to honor her. Retirement is kind of like what the Bible says, it's kind of like a two-edged sword. You know, on one side of the sword, you're happy for those people that are retired because they're on no schedule. Their schedule is their own. They make their own schedule. But on the other hand, on the other side of that sword, you're going to miss them because they've been such a huge part of your life. So we want to wish her the very best, and we have a proclamation for her. She's with the Chamber of Governmental Affairs at the Chamber of Commerce, and most of the staff is here. Staff of the Chamber, how about y'all standing up? Thank y'all for being here to honor Shirley this morning. Okay, we do have the proclamation, and I'll go ahead and read it and present it to her. Whereas this proclamation is presented to honor Ms. Shirley Jones, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs for the Jackson Chamber of Commerce. And whereas Shirley had worked tirelessly for the Jackson Chamber for the past 24 years. Prior to her employment, she served as Chamber of Commerce volunteer for a number of years. In her current position, she works closely with elected officials and government entities on the local, state, and federal levels. She also organizes the activities of Jackson Chamber of Commerce's largest group of volunteers, the ambassadors. With their loyal assistance, she coordinates all individual member events, ribbon cuttings, grand openings, and groundbreaking. And whereas Shirley's achievements within the Chamber organization are numerous, she's an instructor for governmental affairs at the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce Institute each year and has been recognized by the United States Chamber of Commerce and the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce for excellence in governmental affairs. She also attends all meetings of the Jackson City Council and the Madison County Commission and the school board. And whereas, as Shirley herself states, good relationships of mutual respect are the most important part of my job, and being able to work across all segments of the community is one of the favorite parts of what I do. And whereas, due to her hard work and commitment to service, Shirley has been a central figure in the success of the Jackson Chamber of Commerce. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Gist, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, February the 6th, 2018, as Shirley Jones Day, and encourage all citizens, family, friends, and co-workers to join in the celebration of Shirley Jones and her work with the Jackson Chamber of Commerce and the Jackson, Tennessee community. In witness whereof, I, Jerry, Gist hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Jackson, Tennessee, to be affixed this 5th day of February 2018. Would you all join me in giving Shirley a huge hand for her efforts? Great, thank you all. We have one other gift on behalf, Shirley, of the citizens of Jackson. It's one of the more coveted. It's one of the more coveted gifts, usually reserved for kings and queens of foreign countries and foreign states. But we also have a little strap in the door which says that I have the privilege of presenting this to you to the people who live in our city who have made a huge difference. So now it's my honor to present to you the key to the city of Jackson, Tennessee.
It was a hard decision to decide that it was time for me to retire, but I have grandbabies I need to love on a little bit more. And they are wonderful, but I just want to say that the years I've spent at the Chamber have meant so much to me, and I've enjoyed working with everybody I've had an opportunity to work with. But I want to say a special word of thanks to the City Council and to Mayor Gist for always being so kind and so welcoming and for working so well with us at the Chamber. And it's just been my honor to work with you, all of you, and to have this job. I thank you so much. And I know how rare it is for somebody to get the key to the city, and so I'm just beside myself that I have one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, item 7 is recognition. We've got a presentation of audit results for the city of Jackson. 2017, presented by Mike Hewitt and Matt Wood of ATA. So if you guys are here, you come on up and. Morning, sir.
Morning, Mayor, City Council. Mr. Hewitt was unavoidably detained. I know that probably upset y'all to your core. But I've come as part of ATA, partner at ATA, to present this year's audit report. I want to start by just, I've got a quick PowerPoint that kind of summarizes it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. State law requires an annual audit of all municipalities, of all governmental entities in the state of Tennessee, and federal law requires an annual compliance audit for any governmental entity that has more than $750,000 in federally funded expenditures. The city of Jackson has about $1.9 million this year, so a single audit was performed. There were no exceptions found on that. The reason for the audit is to provide assurance that management has presented a true and fair view of the financials, and I'll give a copy of this PowerPoint to everyone. I told some of the councilmen, so you can throw it in the trash whenever you leave here, but to kind of give an oversight of what happened this year. The audit is to identify insights in the areas where management can improve their controls or processes. Our responsibility is to plan and perform the audit in a manner where we can be unbiased, where we can be true about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement, to express our opinion on those financial statements, and to comply with all professional standards. So the audit results for June 30th, 2017 was an unmodified, that's as clean an opinion as you can get on the city's financial statements. There were 5 internal control findings this year, which I'll discuss at the end of the presentation. So true financial results on the government-wide financial statements, meaning treating it like a business, is how I try and interpret that. June 30, 2017, asset side of the balance sheet was $224.66 million compared to $220 last year. I noted the major increase of $4 million. 5 of that was what's called a deferred outflow related to a difference in investment earnings than the state of Tennessee planned. They plan every year to earn about 7.5% on their investments. They actually earned about 2.7% this past year because this city and most others are part of the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. About every government we've walked into this year has had a major change like this. That's a difference that'll be recognized over the next 5 to 7 years. So total liabilities side of the balance sheet increased basically the same, and it was related to the same exact issue. Net pension liability increased about $4.9 million. The majority of that is outside of the city's control. It was related to those investment earnings there. And total net position, you can see, is majorly unchanged. The pension plus and minus asset and liability basically caused it to remain unchanged since last year. So general fund, total assets decreased $2 million. $3 million was basically there to use on capital projects and other things this past year, and the budget as it was adopted. So cash decreased about $3.2 million. The $774,000 increase in interfund receivables, and it's related to the general fund solid waste there. So liabilities, $722,000 decrease, $483,000 of that in accounts payable. The rest, a change in the relationship of general fund and debt services, property taxes. Included some other changes, nothing really to talk about, just to show comparison with one year to the next. They're remarkably the same. Other governmental funds, anything outside of general, basically. Y'all got 4 or 5 others. I compared a little bit, but there was no real difference, so I just noted what this year's activity was. 19.3 in assets, 3.3 in liabilities, and 7.88 million in net position there. Proprietary funds, I did the same. There was no significant change from the last year. of all the liabilities and the business type activities. 3.5 of it is debt of the 4.85 million in liabilities, which is to be expected there. Some notes I wanted to bring up, both going forward and this year. This year was the first year that governmental entities were required to report their tax abatements and any forgiveness of property taxes or personal property taxes in the financial statements. The City of Jackson's is included in your financial statements. It's on page 77 of those financial statements. They do not list the businesses, but they list the type of businesses and those things. That will be something going forward that will be reported every single year. For next year, just as pension distorted the financial statements of governmental entities by putting on an entire balance that's going to be paid over a long, long time, 50 years at some points. Other post-employment benefits is coming on the financial statements next year. It won't affect the general fund, but it will affect the government-wide financial statements. And I put on there, the effect of that's going to be 12 million or something like that, which is it's not as high as we've seen at other governmental entities that are smaller in population than the City of Jackson. But that'll be recorded for the first time next year. It's not a change in how the city's operating, but it's a change in how the Governmental Accounting Standards Board is requiring us to report it. So that's something you'll see come next year that will change the face of the financial statements a little bit. And I'll come back to questions. I wanted to point to the rest of the conclusions here. As stated earlier, unmodified opinion. Fund balance has decreased in the general fund from 2013, you can see the number 24, to 17. 16.4 of that is unassigned, available for use. And I wanted to point to, all those are big numbers, but in relation to the City of Jackson, I wanted to show how good a standing you're in. I've made 5 or 6 of these presentations in the past 3 weeks, and I always point to what is unassigned fund balance of the general fund as a percentage of budgeted expenditures in the general fund. And you can see yours there is 24.04%. We aim at 25 as sort of a golden standard, and I haven't been at 1 in the past 6 weeks. It's been there. But I believe the City of Jackson, based on my forecast and what I can read about the budget and discussions with management here, that you're going to be past the 25% come next year. So a healthy standing at the end of FY18. The internal control findings I've listed there. There's nothing ground shattering. Basically, some of those are required by the state of Tennessee. Exceeding budgeted expenditures, journal entries, failure to receive authorization for debt, and that's just paperwork more than anything else, and some of the relationship between 2 funds inside the city that has been corrected in FY18. The failure to protect undeposited funds, that's part of the state requirement. Anytime you lose more than $100 in the city, the state requires that funding. And the failure about rent receivables, it was sort of the same thing there. So any questions for me this morning?
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Wallace?
Question, Pat. You mentioned about the liability for pensions, and next year will be for
Yes.
healthcare costs and other costs.
Yes.
Is that just in the note of the financial statements, or will that be added to the?
It'll be actually on the balance sheet of the government-wide statements. Now, it will not be, it's not AP, so it's not a liability on the general fund. It's a liability on the government-wide financial statements. It'll be spread much like between proprietary funds and governmental funds, the same way pension is. It's related to any benefits paid to retired employees of the city that's not pension. So basically, any help in health care cost, any help in health insurance, those kind of things, it'll go on the face of the financial statements, but it really won't affect until y'all start funding a plan that matches that. It won't affect any of the fund level financials. It will just be on the government-wide financials.
On the government, is it just added as a separate fund, or?
No, separate line. If you, actual financial statement pages, just to quote it, if you actually go to page 21 of the financial statements where you see non-current liabilities on the statement of net position, there are 2 lines there now that say net pension liability TCRS, net pension liability Old City. It will be a new line right below it. that changes that line that says OPEB liability to net OPEB liability. And the difference being, there's a standard on the books called GASB 45 that only made you report the shortfall contributions. Now it's saying if we had to fund this thing completely today, how much would it cost the city? And that's the liability that will go on the books.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Let me just indicate this. Ms. Bell is our audit and finance director, and I certainly want to thank her. Her job is to keep us out of trouble, and obviously would appreciate the report, and also Al works in that too. So I appreciate both of them so much for calling us out when we need to be called out and say that's not the way to do it. This is the way to do it. So I do appreciate them so much, and especially all the department heads who work hard each year to keep within budget and try to do their best to move this city forward with a little bit smaller amount of funds. So I appreciate everyone. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We usually have a motion to accept the audit report. Do you remember? Why don't we go ahead and get a motion to accept the audit report?
So moved.
Okay, motion to second. Discussion? Council, please vote to accept. Thanks, appreciate it.
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, item 8 is we have an ordinance on the first reading. The way we'll do this ordinance, I'll read it, Stan will present it, then we'll ask for a motion to continue discussion. Item 9 is consideration of the ordinance to rezone property located at 940 block of Ashport Road from RSFH Single Family Residential Flood Hazard District to RS1 PRD FH Single Family Residential Planned Residential Development Flood Hazard District comprising 21.61 acres, submitted by Jerry Winberry. Stan?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
You have the materials pertinent to this rezoning request in your packet, and this was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they are recommending approval of it to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have concerning this rezoning request.
Okay, is there a motion from council?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we would deny this request this morning at 940 Ashford Road. I'm asking for it to be denied.
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and properly a second to deny the request, so any discussion on that motion? Council, please vote.
And the vote to deny passes 7 in favor, 1 abstaining.
Okay. Under second reading, item 10 is consideration of the ordinance to rezone property located at 1926 South Highland Avenue from RS1 Single Family Residential District to SC1 Planned Unit Commercial Development District comprising 2.60 plus acres, and from RS1 Single Family Residential District to B5 Highway Business District comprising 5.02 acres, submitted by Eric Rowland. That is an ordinance passed on first reading. This is second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion from council. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 2, under second reading, consideration of the ordinance to rezone property located north of 1775 Van Drive, west of intersection of Rushmead Road and Boyd Drive from SC1 Planned Unit Commercial Development District to RG3 General Residential District containing 18.27 acres, submitted by Gary Taylor. Council has approved that ordinance on first reading. Is there a motion? Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second. Discussion from council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, moving on down to new business. Item 11 is authorization to apply for and provide a match of $15,000 for a tourism enhancement grant. That
So
is-
moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion from council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 2 under new business is authorization for the mayor to negotiate the purchase of a 5.58 acre site located on the south side of Highway 223 as an addition to the industrial properties purchased September 2016 and January 2017 for future industrial development. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion, a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion from council?
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, is that the $139,750 is the proposed cost on that?
Yeah,
Do we have an appraisal on that?
we do.
Okay.
We do.
What's the appraisal show?
Appraisal shows appraisal shows 123,300. There's some property which we purchased from and received an auction on from the Lawrence family in that same area, which the option on that property was 25,000. And so the acreage we're talking about here is for the same amount as far as the option price. We have Mandy White here from the Chamber and Economic Development Team. If y'all have any questions of her and the importance of this small acreage that we want to go ahead and make all that property contiguous. Mandy, you want to come up? Morning.
Good morning. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I guess I just look at it, the cost per acre is pretty extensive, compared to what the surrounding properties, the property tax roll show. And we have access to the property that we already own, road frontage access to it. And I find, want a little more information on why we need to pay this much for this, small piece of property.
So with regard to the cost, I believe the Budweiser facility paid that amount or right at it that built just probably a half a mile away. The property that the Lawrences have, I believe we have listed for $35,000 an acre, so we believe you will actually make money. That's our hope on the sale of this. That would allow for additional ingress and egress to the site. Also, it's a sliver that's missing and has raised questions by industrial prospects as to why it is not controlled, what would be used on that site if it weren't part of the industrial park.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Mandy and purchase the property?
Move the approval.
We have a motion for approval. Second. Discussion from council. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Let's move item 4 up, as I'd indicated earlier, approval of right-of-way use agreement between City of Jackson and Crown Castle NG Central LLC, Crown Castle. Lewis, would you handle that for us as the right-of-way from been working with JEA in the city?
If y'all are happy with it, that's mine. If you're unhappy, it stands, so we can divide it up a little bit. This is the city's way of leasing to a private company right-of-way or rights to erect things in our right-of-way. We do this with AT&T, we do it with JEA, we do it with Charter and other companies, and what they want to do is to bring in some newer technology, attach it to the existing poles, and this is the agreement that is, we think, appropriate for this technology. They've worked with JEA, they've also talked to Stan about it.
Yeah, I think you all have some information in your packet about it. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. Go back up to item 3, then approval of the proposed sale of city-owned surplus land located to northwest corner of Deedon Incorporated, property adjacent to Missouri Street, map 100P, Group B, parcel 201, to Dennis Henderson for $1,200. Al?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Council, please vote.
And the motion passes with 7 members in favor, 1 abstaining.
Okay, we'll go to item 5 then. There's consideration of initial resolution authorizing the incurrence of indebtedness by the City of Jackson, Tennessee, not to exceed $9 million with the execution with the Public Building Authority, the City of Clarksville, Tennessee, a loan agreement to provide funding for certain public works project and to fund the incidental and necessary expenses related thereto.
Okay, good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
I'd like to call Tommy Green to come up here and assist me with this. Tommy is a representative of the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund and former mayor of Alamo. And first off, the process, this is a private placement. It does not have to be bid out, although they will bid it out as far as the bank that will have the spread. But I'll let Tommy explain that to you. But the first item is the initial resolution, which is, allows us to proceed forward with the process. The second item is the loan resolution itself. These are all part of what the Comptroller's Office, the local government body, requires us to submit, and I really appreciate the help that we received from Tommy and Linda Mooningham in processing this. I'll let Tommy answer any questions relating to that, but first, I'd like to go back, since it's been some time since we really have discussed the issue of the $9 million, although I think I brought it up at last month's meeting. But the $9 million that we're requesting to borrow is basically $3.5 million for street surfacing, and these are all rounded numbers, but we have to submit a use and application of funds for this process. And then we have the normal combined $2.5 million worth of cars, trucks, computers, building upgrades, replacement flooring, just a magnitude of things that would come up for the other departments. The first item basically being Scott Chandler's in the street resurfacing. And then, as you recall, in January or December, I forget which each one it was each month, you approved $3 million for the construction of a new city court building. So that's what this $9 million is to be applied to over a period of time. And I wanted to go a little bit further here before I turned it over to Tommy. We basically have been sailing right along with what we call our variable rate loans, and that's based on the SIFMA plus the spread of the bank plus 15 basis points for the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund. So right now, we're paying on the two big loans that we have of 17.4 and 15.3, we're paying a combined about 2.23 variable rate interest, which is great. We're making or saving thousands of dollars. But we have noticed a significant volatility in the SIFMA rate, which, Tommy, you correct me, the SIFMA rate is really the variable rate charged by about 5 of the largest banks, Bank of America, Citicorp, and others. And it has jumped. A year ago at this time, the SIFMA rate was less than half of that. And then when you added the bank spread and their administrative costs from Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, we were paying an outrageous 1.25 or less variable rate interest versus the rates that we have with our other fixed rate loans of 3.84 going back to 2009 and 3.39 in 2009 and 3.44 in 2011. So you can see we were paying in some cases about a third of what our fixed rate loans had us locked in at. But now, and I think Tommy can explain this a little bit further, they're doing less and less variable rate loans because of the volatility, the 10-year Treasury note, which kind of sets the pace for all other rates going down to your MasterCard and Visa, home mortgage, et cetera. has gone up to 2.74, which is like the highest in 3 years. So the rates are so volatile right now because of world conditions, the stock market ups and downs, and the recent tax reform, that we're now looking at going with a 7-year locked-in rate of 3.39 on this 20-year loan that we're talking about. And then after that 20 years, we come to a point where the bank, and I'll just read from my script, but I'll let Tommy expand on it here. After that, the bank can decide to either lock in the rate for another 7 years or so, or they can, within 180 days' notice, advise the city that there's going to be a new rate or change, or that they want to back out completely. So we have some exposure there, but we are locking in 3.39 for 7 years. And I don't think any of us have a magic wand where we can predict what it's going to be in 7 years. So Tommy, if you would explain how this whole function of the private placement and the banks that bid on it then, and the bank spread, well, it won't be a bank spread in this case, it will be the fixed rate for 7 years.
Tommy, let me simply indicate to the council this funding will be for next fiscal year, July 1st forward, okay? And we're getting a little bit in a hurry to get the funding because of the good potential of interest rates going up between now and June, when we'd normally do it. So that's kind of the position that we're in. So Tommy, thank you for being here, buddy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the funding, this is a draw loan. You will only start paying interest until you draw the money. You got up to 3 years to draw the money. As I understand, you're going to need probably $6 million of it early, and then the last $3 million for the building is not going to start right away, and it's going to be done in phases. So that will be money that's already earmarked for you, but you won't be paying interest on it until you draw it, which is a pretty good benefit for the last $3 million. If you're not going to need it for 2 years, there's no need in drawing the money and paying interest on it. Now, this loan will be done through the Public Building Authority of Clarksville. It's where we do all of our public building authorities loans. The Public Building Authority issues an amount of money that we can use for up to 3 years. Our current one is $300 million. It goes out in May. Then in May, we'll start another $300 million. The city of Jackson has 2 loans now that are in the $300 million that was issued to the bank from the Public Building Authority of Clarksville. It costs Jackson nothing, or any other city anything, to go through the Public Building Authority. In fact, you could do a Public Building Authority of your own if you wanted to, but there's no costs. That's why it's got Clarksville on it instead of Jackson. Now, the loan that that Sam and Al and Karen and Jerry have considered is the 7-year rate. We went for 3 years on your last 2 loans that you did with us when you weren't paying, but just a very little over 1%. The interest rate now, the variable went up, but it's coming back down. But in the last 6 months, the cities that we've loaned money to that are equivalent to Jackson, when in fact most of them don't have a AA credit rating like y'all do. Y'all have got a fine AA credit rating, and that decreases your cost some. But most of the cities now are doing either a 5, 7, or a 10-year fixed rate, and that will lock that in, that you'll be able to budget that for the 7 years, and you know what your cost will be for 7 years. Now, at the end of 7, then the bank can go back. They have to give us 6 months' notice to let you know what's going to happen at the end of the 7 years. And they will give you a 6 months' notice saying it's going to go up or going to go down. Or they're not going to want to do it anymore, we can come in and do something else when that happens, if that happens. It hasn't happened yet with us, and we've been doing these 5 and 7 year rates for about 7 or 8 years. The reason that that most cities are going back to them now is, like Jerry said, because of the variables in the variable rate. There's no, I just heard today or yesterday, they're planning on doing 4 more interest rate hikes in this next year. Well, the rates are probably not gonna go down. They're certainly not gonna go back anytime soon to what y'all were getting with your 1%. But now you're getting now, this one will, now your variable rate, you're paying a little over 2%. And of course, it looks big to get this 3.39 instead of 2.2, what you're paying with your variables, but you've got a locked-in rate for 7 years. The good thing about y'all having a locked rate in for 7 years is you've got almost half of your debt coming off in 4 years. So in 4 years, in 2024, is that correct, Al?
Yes, what he's referring to, and I sent Randy and Ross, who had some questions about that, a copy of this. This is our overall debt summary, and you can see our big 2009 refunding, as Tommy says, comes off in 2024, and that's 35 million of the 80-some million total. And the variable rate loans that we have, the 15.3, you can see right in the middle there, and the 17.4, they're the variable rate loans that we had been floating right along with a 1.25, something like that, total variable and spread and administrative cost, and now that's up to 2.23, and we do feel, the mayor, Karen, Sam, and myself, that it would be best to lock in at 3.39, even though it's higher, because of the volatility in the market today, as we can recently see what's happened with the Treasury note, 10-year Treasury note, and the stock market in the last couple of days, et cetera.
Basically, what you're doing, you're borrowing $9 million, of course, which is a lot of money, but you're paying $9 million on your debt. So, I mean, you're not actually, your debt service is not going to go up because you're borrowing this $9 million, because you're paying $9 million on your debt. So
What he's referring to right here, gentlemen, and we don't have Vicki here today, but gentlemen, is this year's debt principal is $8.4 million, and then we're going to come back and early or sometime next year before the mayor's departure and pay off this $690,000. So in effect, there's $9 million that we're taking out of our total debt and replacing it with a new $9 million that will be spread out over 20 years. And that's been the idea that we've worked on with the mayor since his arrival here, is to hold the total debt principal at, well, it'll be less than 82 million when he departs.
Tommy, can you benchmark us? Can you benchmark this city as compared to other cities our size?
Well, you're one of very few AA rated cities in West Tennessee. Now, there's Bartlett and Germantown down in there that are AAA, but no, there's not many. You're a whole lot. There's a whole lot more single A's than there is AA's, and the AA, you having a AA rating saves you probably 15 basis points on everything you've got. If you're single A rated, it would save you that. Now, non-rated is a different deal. That's a whole lot more. But by you being AA rated, and you just heard from the audit report, the city of Jackson's in fine financial shape. Even though I'm not a financial advisor, we don't advise. You've got enough. you've got enough seasoned employees on your staff that are a whole lot better with financing than I am, a whole lot better than a lot of financial advisors I know.
What I wanted to stress here, Mayor, was that, and I've talked to Randy and to Ross both, because they asked questions about how are we going to pay off this $9 million. And of course, and as I explained to Ross, him being new on the council, everything that we borrow, where is Ross? There he is, okay, is based upon the taxing authority of the city. In other words, it's a very risk-free loan for whoever wins this private placement bid, whatever bank, because we're bound by our taxing authority to cover. You know, it's not like loaning money to a private institution. And we aren't going to pay any principal for 3 years. So here we are in 18, we're coming down and not paying any principal until 2021. And the interest that is shown here, the only assumption that Tommy and Linda were able to make when they did this amortization was that we drew out the whole amount. So the interest will be far less than this because we're only going to draw it out as we need it. It's like a line of credit. Now, we do have to take out $50,000, I believe, in the first year, and we're already going to exceed that with about $101,000 that we'll need for the city court, A&E, and other expenditures.
Okay, any questions of council on this? I'll accept the motion to approve the initial resolution.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Discussion from council.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Al, on that 300,000 we're borrowing for the, city court, I thought we already.
$3 million.
I'm sorry, yeah, 3 million. Trying to lowball it there. I thought we already approved something for that as far as a bank loan or.
We approved the item itself, but this is the financing for it.
Okay, so we had to approve the financing on that already then?
Right.
All right. The other question, I guess, is we draw this down only as needed. We don't have to draw the full 9 million if we don't end up not needing it, do we? As long as we don't,
After the 3-year period, we have to have drawn down the $9 million.
we have, I thought we had up to 3 years to draw it, but we didn't have to draw it all. After that 3 years, we can't draw anymore. Or do we have to draw the 9 million within 3 years?
You don't, if you get everything done you want done, you've got $1 million left, you don't have to draw it. It can be paid on your principal payment. What will happen if you don't draw it all? It will be paid on your principal payment and come off of the back end of the loan. It'll cut the years off, in other words. But you don't have to spend it just because it's there.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, any other questions of council? We have a motion and a second. Additional discussion? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, that was the initial resolution. The next item is the loan resolution itself. And
Motion to approve.
Have a motion for approval for item 6, the loan agreement. There's a second.
There was.
Have a second. Discussion? Sorry. Okay. Okay, council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor.
okay, thank you, Tommy.
Okay, item 7, the planning department submits the following street acceptance of Wrights Mill, section 9C, number 32 through 115 Ravenwood Drive, Wrights Mill, section 11, 261 through 285 Flagstone Drive and Mill Chase Cove, Wrights Mill, section 12, number 288 to the end of Flagstone Drive and a stub of Bridgewood Drive. Is there a motion?
So move.
Have a motion. Is a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
On our board appointments, we have the Mayor's Advisory Council on Domestic and Sexual Violence, Councilman Pretty, Dr. Eric Jones, and Leanne Naylor is a reappointment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion, second, discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote passes with 7 members in favor, 1 abstaining.
Okay, under the Ned McWhorter West Tennessee Cultural Arts Center, the appointment of Julie Cook.
So moved.
A motion, second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 9 is budget amendments. Ms. Bell.
You have two amendments before you today. The first is for the purchase of the industrial land previously discussed in the amount of $139,750. This will require a draw on fund balance.
Move, so move.
We have a motion, a second, discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
The second amendment that you have before you today is for the fire buildings capital for a new roof at Station 2 in the amount of $56,000. This will require a draw on fund balance.
So moved.
Motion, second, discussion. Council, please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you,
The vote
Kathy.
is unanimous.
Item 10 is invoices over $10,000.
So moved. Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
There being no further business, meeting is adjourned.